whether it's choosing to dive into Patreon or choosing to dive into Cameo or choosing to go on the challenge or choosing to go get a job in corporate America, choosing to get into yoga, it doesn't matter. If you're going to say to yourself in this finite amount of time, I'm going to try something new, and you're going to phone it in, you're going to half-ass it, you're not going to do it well, it's not worth even doing.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of A-Listers. My guest today is most known from MTV's The Real World, The Challenge. He is a two-time challenge champion, an entrepreneur, and has a perfect 5-star rating on Cameo. Welcome to the show, Wes Bergmann.
Oh, well, thank you. What a lovely intro.
What can you tell me about your life before reality TV and what made you decide to do it?
I was a young guy from Kansas City. I was still a boy, honestly, and I'd ventured out for pretty much essentially the first time other than sports to Arizona State, and I was having a great collegiate experience. And I was on a really, really good path, and it just felt like there was nothing that could stop me from that path, with the exception of, when I found out that there was a tryout and I was gonna go to it, and then when I found out that I was somewhat doing well in that tryout, because there were several steps after that, it was obvious that it was like the only thing that I would pause that path for, because it was just such a true once in a lifetime opportunity, and I needed to jump on it.
So talking about the past a little bit more, how did it feel when you won your first final in the duel?
Surreal, maybe, might be a good word, because that was an unprecedented time of this whole like single winner thing. And I just remember lining up with everybody, and I was confident at the very beginning, but like, even no matter how confident you are, when TJ says there's going to be one winner, we've never done this before, there's no second place, it's hard to kind of wrap your head around it. And then you're looking to your left and to your right, and you're seeing monsters. You're at Evan and Kenny and Nehemiah and Brad and CT, and yeah, Bananas was there, but no one really looked at him that way for, I don't know, 12 years to ever. No one really is intimidated by him. And so we've got, so you look at this at that competition, and then not to mention all the formidable women that are a part of the voting and a part of the, and they're all friends with the guys that have been there forever. And I'm essentially on my second kind of season. So you look at it, and it's just like, it's hard to wrap your head around how winning would have even been possible. And so as it happened, you just kind of can't even believe it.
You versus Josh, when you said you want to make this a Wes and Josh thing, I go for people that can beat me in a final. I come here to win $1 million. I'm not here to get rid of the worst player. I don't think that moment and that situation for me will be topped. I remember just just cheering when that happened. What more can you tell me about dealing with Josh on that show?
This one's kind of complicated because, Josh has a side that has not been shown on TV that is really very lovable. It's really boring, but it's lovable. Like he's at deep down, he's got a very, very good heart. He's got a lot of emotions, which tend to cloud and decay in his decision making. You might just be on the phone or, having a coffee or a drink or whatever, and all of a sudden he's like really kind of fun to be around and fun to talk to. And you could tell that's why he would be very likable to have in your real life. It's just in the game, there's just so much pressure, and that pressure translates to emotion. And then as soon as that happens, he becomes a different person that he wouldn't be in a normal situation. And you could say that about all of us, right? Like
flip a switch.
I'm different on the challenge also because of the pressure. Right now I'm talking to a new friend, and there's no, it's nice and relaxed and it's easy. And contrast that with if you were my enemy and it was on international television, there's $1 million on the line, things change. When I look for people to protect and align myself with, I'm going to first choose people that have perfect records with me. And when I looked at that move from War of the Worlds 1, it was indeed a small move, but I'm not going to partner with someone that's got a -1 versus someone that's got a -5 in my little, head where I'm keeping score. And I think that, and I didn't say that to him. It's just that's how it was, and I think he picked up on it. And then in War of the Worlds 2, I think that he was so desperate to make a big move and to make a name for himself, and he was infatuated with Bananas, and probably still is. And Bananas was so salty about how bad I had owned him on War of the Worlds 1 that Bananas was recruiting army members, and Josh looked at it like, oh, I get to appease Bananas and I get to make some sort of a big move. And so if you remember, that was a team game. So when we vote him in as the captain or whatever the thing was, we give him that position. We were just clowning the British squad every single game. So we basically knew whoever we were going to choose, we were just giving someone power. And he did the opposite of what he said he was going to do. And he blindsided me, and I was sick and all this kind of stuff. And so then we go into Total Madness, his 3rd season. And now he's done 2 things to me, a small thing and a big thing. And so he assumes that I am now going to be coming for him because I have all the reason why, because he deserves it. So he's not wrong when he assumes that there's a rivalry. But what he forgets is that everyone wants a rivalry with me, because you have money. To get for money, popularity, attention, everybody. And I'm not
like Bananas, like CT, like having one of those. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. They want that. Or if you latch on to me, then you guaranteed get attention. Like we saw it on this most recent season. A bunch of the rookies fought. Some of the rookies had sexual intercourse with each other. All that was edited out and so when I'm making decisions, I am looking at like, who is the best finalists? Who are the super smart, great runners that are incredibly well-rounded with finalist experience that have a darn good shot of beating me? And when I ask a question like that, then Josh is like, not on that list. And so I don't have time to spend. I mean, there's only so many. Let's say that you get 2, max 3 good shots a season to send at somebody's way. That means why would I waste it on somebody that I can beat in the finals?
Do you think the finals have gotten harder or easier since you started?
They're hit or miss, but I came in one of the first hard finals ever. And it was like a definitive change in how the finals were going to be done. And then there was another big bump on Rivals 1 for the first kind of 2-day final, which came out of nowhere. And so, I mean, the answer is they've gotten harder. But when you compare them to before I got there, they were jokes. What we call these days the mini finals.
Yeah,
that was their finals. So they've just they've gotten substantially harder. Now, sometimes it's not like they get an inch harder each time. Sometimes they take a couple of steps back because they want to try new things. Like there's definitely some where they've made some mistakes in that world. The reason why the challenge is so innovative is because they experiment. And just like entrepreneurs, we don't make giant bets on things. We make tons of little small bets and use it as experiments. And we do more of what works and less of what doesn't. But you can't put anything on a whiteboard and know whether or not it's working. You have to do it.
I've always wondered, when people are in the house and they aren't in shape, why are these people never picking the brains of some of the people that are in great physiques or are very athletic to just try to improve themselves to make it to a final? Because I can take the benefit of the doubt they maybe don't know anything about exercise or fitness. But it's always blown my mind when somebody's like, I want to make it to a final, and they just sit around the whole day and never do anything.
Yeah. I don't know. I think part of it has to do with it depends on the person, and I'm not going to start giving examples, but I'd say it falls under one of 2 really big categories. One of said categories would be, you can't become athletic in your 20s. That's not a thing. And I might be wrong. That's just not a thing. There are athletes and then there's not. It takes from a young age playing sports and a well-rounded amount of sports decades before you can really call yourself an athlete. And then you've got to maintain it. And a lot of them don't have those backgrounds. They find themselves on a competition show because they went through RE the One or something like that. And then they wonder why, you can't go and do booty band workouts for a year after having never played sports. And then all of a sudden wonder why you're not able to finish finals and jump off cliffs while solving puzzles and all this kind of stuff. It's like, there's that. Some of them, and I'm thinking of one person in particular, but some of them dig themselves into such big holes where it's just so daunting to try and dig themselves out. They don't even know where to start. And they also have been lying to the fans and themselves for so long about their level of in-shapedness that they, what is it? What do you have to get over? The first step to overcoming addiction is to admit that you have a problem.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say that's the first step for, probably the most egregious example of who we're probably all talking about. This person probably needs to first admit there's a problem, because there's 11 more steps to unpack after that, and they're all hard ones. But the first one is to admit something's wrong. I need help. And because there's only so many times you could say, I've got heart. I'm going to leave it all out there.
I think we know who you're talking about, Wes.
Why does everybody doubt me? And it's like, because you're lying to yourself.
Swimming is something I've always loved and I've always enjoyed doing. Why do some of these top level competitors on the challenge struggle with swimming, something you have always excelled at?
Yeah. Again, I don't know. Something that I have done that's different than a lot of people did in my years, right? And growing up now on the challenge. Now, most of them have kind of picked up on this by this point, and I commend them for that. But right from the beginning, I knew, some people might view this as a cheesy TV show or whatever, but I'm like, listen, look what happens when you win. Look what happens when you do well here. Look what this can be used as a lily pad to springboard onto all sorts of other things if you use it right. So do it well. Anything worth doing is worth doing well, and treat it like a job. I mean, there's not been one thing in 15 years on television that I've been late for. There's not been one person that I've disrespected or talked down to. There's not one time that I haven't prepared for months to go on to the show. There's not one time where I don't communicate my needs and what I'm trying to accomplish with producers. It's like, I treat it like a job. I'm not entitled. I don't deserve this spot. I'm going to earn it every single time I'm there. And I think that there's a lot of them, and I'm going to pick on Leroy for a second. Leroy never looked at it like it was a job, and he wonders why he never won. It's like, in between seasons, your job is to get into shape and to fix your weaknesses. And in recent seasons, it looks like he's tried to do that. I mean, I think, I might be wrong, but I think he either won or came close to winning a swimming-esque one recently. And so it's like, okay, great, props. But why is it that this is your 11th, 12th, 13th, whatever season, and you're just now saying it should be a job? It's like you're a literal decade too late.
Well, let's talk about Cameo a little bit. You have that impressive 5-star rating, and I think last time I checked, something over 800 5-star ratings. What made you decide to do them and go so above and beyond, opposed to just, hi, I'm so-and-so, and then calling it a day?
Yeah, I think I could repeat the answer of everything I just went on that rant for in the last several minutes.
Don't want to phone it in.
I don't do anything without doing it well. So, and everyone should say the same thing about every decision that they make, about everything, whether it's choosing to be on this podcast, whether it's choosing to dive into Patreon, or choosing to dive into Cameo, or choosing to go on the challenge, or choosing to go get a job in corporate America, choosing to get into yoga. It doesn't matter. If you're going to say to yourself, in this finite amount of time, I'm going to try something new, and you're going to phone it in, you're going to half-ass it, you're not going to do it well, it's not worth even doing. And so, there's only so many platforms that I can be on before you are, you're diluting your time, and then you start not doing them well. So when I make a decision to start something like a Patreon or a Cameo, it's like I'm gonna like really dive in and do it well, or I'm not gonna do it at all. And I could tell very early on that Cameo does a good job of empowering you to do this, but there's a bunch of small little decisions that you can make and things to follow through on that make it to where you can really excel on that. And I look around at my colleagues and it's like rough, like what, and I'm doing it because it's like a great way for me to engage with my fans. It's like a nice little, it's money that comes in at random times, and eight ways for me to kind of, dive into my, I enjoy being Wes from the challenge as much as I enjoy just being Wes. And so for me to knock out 5 or 10 of them in convenient times of the day, it means a lot to me. But do you know how much, and yes, it moves my financial needle, but it would have made my financial year had I been 24. That would have been a huge tool back in the day. So I look at my colleagues who are 24, 25, 22, whatever. They're not jumping, no, or worse.
They're doing half-assing it.
Yeah. They're not getting all my streak. So can you see the middle number?
Let me see. I do. 2,592.
That's how many I've done in a row without missing.
That's insane.
So that means I don't miss a deadline. Every single one of them gets done. Every single one. And it's like,
even when we set up this, you said, hey, it's on my calendar, consider it done. And so
but it is what it is. And when I look at my colleagues, they're all showing it off. One of them showed me a 500 streak, and they were like,
and you were like,
and I was like, okay. Well, first off, I was like, congratulations. But then the other one was like, how do you do that? I'm at 17, and then I mess it up, and it's like, guys, you don't have a job. You don't have a business. Your job in between
just to wait for the next challenge
is to stay in shape and do your cameos on time. It's a shame.
You brought it up briefly, talking about Patreon, and I promise I'm not sponsored by Wes, but I will say some of the best outlets that I've seen when I jumped on it is seeing all this detailed behind the scenes stuff about the challenge. So I would highly recommend it if you're not on there. But I was wondering, what are your plans to do during the downtimes after like All Stars ends? Any hints at all, or are you just leaving it?
Okay, so my patrons over the months I have digital sticky notes. I don't know if you use those, but I have sticky notes, and I've got a sticky note on my computer where when they give ideas of topics that would make for good videos, I make a little note. And sometimes the patrons will ask such complex but poignant questions where I'm like, whoa, I could really dive into that question and it would take me a half hour and I'd enjoy it and it would be a one-of-a-kind kind of video, at which point I take that question and I put it in my sticky note because it could make a full video. And then secondly, like my wife does the All Stars one with me, and we have kind of fallen in love with it as an excuse to have a little bit of a date night. And it's fun, to interact with the community and to make a video together and to watch a show. And it's kind of set knowing that like Thursday early evening is like our date night to make this video. So even though I'm going to be doing some of the videos the way that I just described there, I think that in some capacity, I'm going to find ways to also engage her. Like maybe we watch another complimentary show, like a Big Brother or something. Or maybe we pull out a completely random show and treat it like a book club. Like, hey, everyone on this, go on to Netflix and watch this show, watch alongside us. We're going to post 2 recap videos.
How annoying is Bear?
Normally when I get a question like that, I mean, look how I said also, I gave Josh a compliment sandwich as I insulted him badly in the meat of the sandwich. So I find it very difficult to give that compliment sandwich to a guy who's gotten in as much trouble as he has recently. And And this guy, I mean, I almost used the phrase cross lines, and that's just not good enough. Like the man has made some egregious mistakes, and he's going to suffer some very serious consequences, and as he does. But if I remove that from the situation and I try my best to pretend that none of this had happened, I look back on Bear's antics and I find them funny because he is funny. That doesn't, you could say that a sociopath is still funny. So I hope that people understand, like, sociopaths that commit crimes deserve to go to jail. But that doesn't mean that they're not funny.
Right.
And he's hilarious. He crossed the line. Now, when like the fire extinguisher, that's a more appropriate way to say he crossed the line. Yeah, I don't know. Like Old West would have, when he got blindsided while sick, would have murdered Bear. But like a more mature West that was just mad at his friends and upset with the situation was like, I'm kind of like over this. I can't, that kind of stuff. But no, he's an interesting individual to say the least. But I've got a bad feeling that he's in, not a bad.
Yeah,
feeling. I mean, he's donezo in every capacity.
Is it true or false? Johnny Bananas cannot make new jokes.
Yeah, it's not. It's true. Occasionally, like the inside joke.
I've seen multiple interviews with you and him where he's used the same joke with a separate person.
I know.
That he's
Yeah, no, he's a joke stealer and a joke repeater. The inside joke that I have with him is occasionally he will say a new joke, and I'm like, whoa.
Where'd you get that from?
Did you just write an original joke? He's very good at taking my jokes because I'm just constantly funny, like year round, 24/7. And because that's just me. I'm just naturally hilarious. I'm just throwing out A- jokes left and right. Well, he sits around and waiting, and he just writes all of my A- jokes down, and then he's good at turning them into A+ jokes and then signing them as bananas. And it's sad, quite frankly. It's really a sad state of affairs. And I kind of feel bad for the guy. So that's why I kind of got to let him get away with it. Because
when can we expect to see you return to the challenge? Any hints at that?
I don't know. This was a very important and smart one for me to take off for a lot of reasons. I think, and to be fair, I don't really think that they wanted me that bad for the first time ever. I don't think that MTV, or at least a person or two there, wanted me as bad as they've kind of always wanted me in the past. I think that it's evident that I've been on a bunch in a row. I think that it's evident that that they need desperately to brand some new people. And so it's
struggling with that.
They are, and some of it's their fault, some of it's not, right? Like gosh dang, they struck iron with the world's rookie class. It's just they all had these one at a time, one thing after another that was either, British people, with all due respect, they might sound classy, but they're way less classy than Americans. And they make way bigger mistakes because they're not sensitive over there. So they run around doing all sorts, and that's not any excuse for the mistakes that they have made. Those are all bad mistakes, but they're way less classy than Americans. And I know that sounds really weird, but so they're all getting canceled, or doing things that are worse than that, right? No, I'm not. My little break isn't done. Like
Gotcha.
Because it wasn't really that. It hasn't been that long. Like
right.
I haven't even had a half a year, and in that half a year, there will have been 2, maybe 3 shows if you count Paramount Plus stuff that I would have skipped. So it feels like a lot to the fans, but really we're talking about like a 6-month window or a 9-month window, which is how long the breaks would have been when I was growing up. Like they were 9, 10, 11-month breaks. And now there's just so much stuff. And then when you add in other properties and the spinoffs and stuff, then there really aren't enough breaks. So, and then my other kind of big fear challenge wise is that, when I am not on the challenge, I dive even further back into entrepreneurship. And to do that well, you have to build partnerships and investments and make long-term bets and sign leases and and pay for mortgages and all sorts of big, expensive, big boy responsibility type stuff, which and every one of those that I sign on to dive into entrepreneurship even more, makes it harder and harder to go back because they don't give you very much notice. You're not able to connect with your real life very well at all. And it's for a very long period of time. I mean, there's very few CEOs in the world that can just say, I'm out for 2 months. And, and so it's like, it's going to be, I'm going to try to go back. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to.
Well, this last little part I have for you is going to be some rapid fire questions. Best season of the challenge, in your opinion?
War of the Worlds 1.
Worst thing people do in a challenge house?
Not respect everyone's sleep, including their own.
If you could pick one guy and girl to return to the challenge, who would it be?
I think Tony would be an interesting comeback that we haven't seen for a while, but he's not too old school. I keep up with him on Instagram. He looks ripped and good as ever. He's probably healthier now than he was when he was competing. And then girl-wise, I think it'd be interesting to see Emily back. I mean, Evelyn would be a fun.
I've been rooting for Evelyn forever, but she's just like a ghost online. I haven't found any existence.
I know.
Of her.
I haven't talked to her in so long. I don't remember the last time that I've talked to her. But yeah, that'd be a fun one.
Friend or foe, Kenny?
Foe, but yeah, foe. I just, it's been a long time since I've talked to him or interacted with him. And, even though there are some things that I don't, that I really kind of dislike him for that he's done to other people and to me. But the majority of our rivalry was more of a frenemy thing.
Gotcha.
So yeah, like you don't become any sort of enemy without making mistakes that he made. I have not made a single mistake to him that he made towards me, several big ones. But then, after a year and living with them, there's just a certain amount of like, you're just like, okay, let's get over it a little bit. And I'm not going to trust you again. But, then it just is like a working, and this happened kind of with Bananas. It's like, yeah, we disliked each other.
That's my next one, friend or foe, Bananas. We
disliked each other for whatever reason. His is way less kind of bad. His was just, he picked Kenny in the sides and he went hard with that decision. And so he was just basically at a rival high school would be the best way to describe it. He was like, so there's not really one or two things that he did to me or that I did to him where it's like, that's why we're enemies. It's just, he picked a side that I wasn't on. And then I fought that side. And then you spend enough time with the guy and you're like, okay, we're never going to trust each other. We're never going to work with each other. We're always going to kind of go for each other. But everything I just said, there is so much freedom in that, because you could sit down, we share breakfasts, lunches, and dinners, and we sit on bus rides and all this like obnoxious downtime. And there's something so freeing about being able to just relax and have a conversation with a guy that is going for you. Because there's is he going to backstab me? Is he going to turn on me one day? It's not, you're never thinking that, because the answer is he's going for me right to my face as I am to him. So when we're sitting around talking about the weather, talking about sports, making fun of TJ, when we're doing that, we're not playing each other. We're like literally making fun
just
of TJ.
BSing, right?
Because we know we're going for each other.
No hidden agenda.
Yes. And so, and there's something weirdly healthy about that.
Who's the nicest person from the challenge?
Me.
You? Okay, then who's the meanest person from the challenge?
Jordan.
Really?
Yeah. I'm talking like Jordan in the challenge.
Yeah, like, of course.
I doubt that guy utters a mean word in his life when he's not on a challenge, but I don't live with him off the challenge. I live with him the challenge. So my experience with him is that man is mean. I'd throw Tori into that too. Probably really mean. Yeah.
She doesn't come off that way on TV, but of course, like you've already said, we don't
it's all bubbles and sunshine until the camera's off, and then it's like mean.
What position did you play when you played soccer?
I moved around a lot. I was very versatile with both feet, so I was on the left side, but mostly like left midfield, left forward, even left defense during certain parts of my career. But in my latter years, as in now, I cherry pick as a forward. I don't play any defense because I just go for the glory. But like if I was to try out,
as we saw in Champs versus Stars, even though it was a giant ball, but
yeah, no, and that was a fun one. But yeah, I'd say left midfield.
Favorite superhero?
Batman.
Batman.
Yeah, I mean, I love his toys.
If you had to pick one superpower, what would it be?
Is it possible to say to be able to read the future?
Yeah, I mean, anything could be a power. So
that's my power then.
What's your lucky number?
9.
9. Is there any reason behind that, or just
that was my soccer number?
Biggest pet peeve?
I've got a lot of them. Let's talk on the.
Mine's smacking when people eat, because I hate that.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's pretty bad. Yeah, I hate people that especially on the challenge. I hate people that not only disrespect sleeping time, but also like even selfishly, it's like, dude or dudette, go to sleep or stay asleep. You like wonder why you're breaking. It's because you're getting 4 hours of sleep a night for 2 straight months while we're doing all this grueling stuff. Like in my room, I have the same speech, and it's probably an old man annoying speech at this point, but I have the same speech to my room. I'm like, listen, I'd love to work with you guys all, like from a game standpoint. So let me know if you want to talk about that. But I think that we can at least agree on a sleeping alliance. And this is what I mean. we're just going to, this is a sleeping sanctuary, and we're going to respect it as such because we all should be friends, but there's all this common area. There's kitchens and living rooms, pool tables. Let's go out there and joke around and be loud and stuff, because even if we end up crossing each other in the game, we both need sleep. And sometimes that works and sometimes that doesn't.
I'm surprised that hasn't made to the show, because I think that'd be hilarious.
It's a very boring alliance, but
I think it would be a funny thing to hear though.
Yeah, there's so much truth to it.
What's a food that you do not like?
Mushrooms.
What's your least favorite type of music?
Country.
I'm with you on that all the way. If you could add one person to Mount Rushmore, who would it be and why?
Okay, Elon Musk.
How do you like your steak cooked?
Depends on the quality of the restaurant. Bad quality, like medium rare. Good quality, medium.
Okay.
As in, like if you don't know what you're doing, cook it less. If you know what you're doing,
yeah,
go for it.
If you bought a yacht, what would you name it?
Bootstrap.
What's the reason behind that?
That's my dog's name, and you got to pay tribute to my puppy.
Okay. I knew you loved dogs, but I didn't know you had a dog of your own, because I saw you babysitting.
Yeah, Bootstrap is my dog that he passed away like 1 or 2 months ago.
Okay.
And so I was babysitting, not because my brother needed me to babysit, but because
the puppy companion.
Yeah, so it was a lot more like dog napping than it was babysitting. But him and we went on adventures for a day.
Love it. What's your biggest goal in life?
I think I've accomplished a lot of my stuff. And so I guess the best goal would be to stay healthy and happy enough to be able to just continue to do the stuff that I'm doing.
Well, that is it. I will have everything for you, of course, linked in the description. But what is next for you, Wes?
Well, I'm filming a business show this summer that's going to be a web series and also be available on a free mobile app, so people will be able to watch it in that capacity. It's like the Olympics for startups. So I'm flying in somewhere in the neighborhood of about 57 startups to Kansas City to live and compete against each other for the bulk of the summer, and it's being turned into a web series. And I've put about a year's worth of prep and basically our business's budget for the year into it. And it's I'm pumped, but I'm getting kind of nervous because we're getting nearer and nearer this thing that we've been talking and planning about for a long time. And so I'm as scared as I am excited.